Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is May 25th. This is a regular school board meeting of District 832, the Mahtomedi School District. We do not have any comments to the board, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise and join me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Done.
Approval of the agenda. Have a motion
So moved.
by Director Donna,
Second.
seconded by Director Doman. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda. Have a motion
So moved.
by Director Peterson,
Second.
seconded by Director Regan. All those in, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, presentations and recognition. Superintendent Duffrin.
I'm excited to be able to recognize our outgoing. She is leaving us, which is appropriate in this respect. So we're not taking it too hard, but we have been exceedingly lucky to have you as part of our school board. And I am really thankful that you are going to work in college in California. So I think that's great news for all of us. I have been so impressed with your commitment to the work here and how seriously you've approached your goal. You have come prepared to participate, you've shared some insights, some really impressive insights that have really helped in the discussion. You were, and maybe Kaya was one of a handful of students who participated in the inaugural student school board member convening hosted by the PTA. And when she came back from that, you might recall, she brought back some great ideas for us for how we can improve our work and how we can improve. And so we want to thank you for your contribution to the school board and to the school board and for your efforts. Represented very well here. So thank you and good luck. We're excited for you. And I don't know if some board members want to say some things before we take a picture and give you our appreciation.
Dr. Regan.
Kaya, I have appreciated so many things about you being on the school board with us, sitting here in discussions and conversations. And most of all, I appreciate you speaking your truth. So you have said things that have been, celebrations about things happening in the schools. And then also you've asked some questions of us too at times, which has been great because you've spoken your truth and that's what matters. You're here to represent the students and have done so very well. So thank you.
Yeah, Kaya, congratulations, and definitely looking forward to seeing how you progress in your next step. I appreciate not having a presence and personally having a presence in the high school, hearing your reports every week and understanding what's happening, because you've done a great job giving us a very broad understanding of what's happening at the high school. And I was very excited to see you receive a scholarship last night. So congrats again.
Thank you.
Director Payne.
Kaya, it's been a joy getting to know you. I know you have a family history with the board, which gave you insight into the work, and you still came, which I think is great. That you did an excellent job representing the entire student body. In all your reports, you did such a nice job of not only sharing things you were involved with, but things you weren't involved with. So you really sought out information and came to us with a nice broad look at what all students were engaged with and doing that helped give us perspective of what is happening in the high school. And so I appreciate the time you took to do that and then report and share that with us.
I just want to add that I have really enjoyed getting to know you. I appreciate your service, especially knowing how much you have on your plate. I would see Kaya around town. She has a million things going on. She's just, you have so much going for you, and you give back with all the talents you have. You turn around and share those with your community. And thank you so much for giving us your time this year. It's been really, really so great to have you be with us. And I'm very excited for you. And I hope you'll stay in touch, and that we'll hear how your year goes next year and beyond that. Yes.
Congratulations. And thank you.
Am I asking the principal?
Yes.
Okay, Principal Brisky and Dr. Reichel, please come forward.
We are super excited to be here tonight to celebrate two amazing leaders that we have in the district, Judy Livingston and Lindsay Scanlon, who happen to be sitting in the front row here. They have been, ooh, do I get to? Yes. So in their current roles, Lindsay has, as you know, taken on a new role this year as a curriculum coordinator with that literacy emphasis. And Judy has continued great work in the reading intervention room at Wildwood. And together, in addition to those two very important roles in our district, serve as our letters implementation facilitators. I have shared with you in the past that they are known at the state level as among the best trainers that we have in the state, and we get to keep them here, and that's such a great thing. I'm going to turn it over to Scott, who has some great things to say.
All right, so one of the things that you will notice right away when you first talk to Lindsay and Judy is a couple of things. First, they are very passionate about literacy, and they are also super knowledgeable about literacy. They like talking about literacy, they like reading about literacy, they like studying literacy, they like digging into research about literacy. And Judy, actually, if you've ever been to a meeting with her, on her iPad, she has a sticker that says, "Haha, made you read." So that I think going through a timeline of the leadership that they have helped provide the Wildwood staff will give everybody kind of an understanding of how invested, how committed, and how much time and energy they've put into kind of where we are at today and where we're going in the future. So post 2021, Lindsay and Judy started working with small groups of teachers, getting them trained in essentially what was kind of like a mini science of reading. They started doing Haggerty. By the way, if I get any of this wrong, let me know. Which is phonemic awareness support. And then they started teaching teachers about sound walls, which is different than word walls. I think we all kind of grew up either learning from a word wall or teaching through a word wall. And that's a wall with words on it, but a sound wall has articulation. So it's teaching the students about articulation. Lindsay and Judy at that time had been starting to talk to me about letters. I had never really heard of it. I've heard of it in some realms and things like that, but they really talked about, even more than the letters training itself, they really started to talk about explicit reading instruction and systematic way of teaching reading. There's a lot of brain research out there. They were dug really deep into that. I said, that's awesome. That makes a lot of sense to me. And so in 2021 or 21-22, we formed a multi-tiered system of support committee along with some really awesome committed teachers and we developed some goals. And our first goal was really to understand and use our assessments that we currently have and kind of look at our resource to see if it is really the best way to teach students how to read. Then we kind of really jumped in and said we would like all of our teachers letters trained sections 1 through 4. We want to give our teachers the best understanding of reading and how to teach it that we possibly could with the latest research out there. Then we wanted to get a resource that aligns, and we had some awesome conversation just this morning about some resources that aligned, and we have some very excited teachers about that. We want to use those assessments to skill group, and then we want to break those skill groups into grade level and do something that's called walk to intervention. Then Lindsay and Judy really came onto the scene with their leadership this year. That we provided all of our teachers systematic letters training. And letters is a really in-depth program that our teachers took on, which was amazing. A lot of it is an online work that they can either do by themselves or they can do with their team. And then Lindsay and Judy provided us some amazing training that are called briefs, where they review all of the materials that the teachers had learned. And then we dig deep into it, and then we start applying it to Wildwood. We used all of our professional days. We really picked a pony this year, and that's what we stuck to. Teachers used about 3 Wednesdays a month to work on that training. And when we went around on April 10th and we saw the teachers incorporating some of the learning that they had already done in their classrooms, and there was many more teachers than I had even thought, that was an attribute to the leadership of Lindsay and Judy. So one of the things that I think is really neat, it's one thing to have knowledge, it's another thing to pass knowledge on. And that's one thing that Lindsay and Judy do really well is Judy could do interventions all day long with students. She's amazing with students, but she chooses to pass that knowledge on to teachers that help teachers become better teachers. And then therefore our students are getting better. So Jen ditched me up here, so I guess. This is you. Oh, at the end. Okay. So I want to read this quote from Pan Rack, who works very closely and is also here tonight. Does an amazing job with our students too. Judy and Lindsay have inspired me and encouraged me to become the best possible reading teacher I can be. They generously share their knowledge, resource, and time as they are devoted to the goal that every child will become a reader. Pan Rack. Oh. All right. Not only do they attribute to Wildwood and Mahtomedi Public Schools, but they also add to the community. And Beth Horhan, one of our first grade teachers, sent me this quote. I appreciate Judy and Lindsay's commitment to helping us provide a strong foundation for our students. Their commitment also moves beyond the walls of our school and pours into the community. An example is collaborating with the Wildwood Library to build a decodable library for the students and community. It is clear that they are passionate about providing everyone with the opportunity to learn how to read. Thank you for your countless hours you have poured into your work, so our world is a better place. And I think that really sums up the work that you guys have done for us.
So we're just wrapping this up to share how grateful we are for your leadership. And the final quote is gone, so I can't read it out loud to everyone, and that's okay. So thank you. I think next step is to have a picture, right? Or
Yeah.
to share things.
There might be some words to share.
There might be some words to share. All right.
Director Payne.
I always have words to share about these too. So I want to thank you and acknowledge to our community the hard work you've done, because the work you did this year, working directly with our state legislators, made a difference to readers in the entire state, right? You went in and you offered exact wording and editing to bill language that made a difference in the way the READ Act will be implemented. The READ Act was a huge lift by a lot of people, but you were the voice of classroom teachers, of buildings, of districts saying, "Huh, that is not possible, but this is possible, and this is why." And it came to the point where legislators were pretty much calling you directly because of the relationships and things that you had done and the great advice you had given them. So I want to applaud you for that work and thank you for that work on behalf of all students in the state of Minnesota, because those emails made a huge difference in how the READ Act came out in the final language. So, thank you.
Dr. Doman.
I would just like to offer my personal thanks and gratitude on behalf of the families and the kids that are coming up through Wildwood right now. I'm super excited to see the progress that they make as they travel into the future buildings and stuff. So personally, thank you guys very much.
Director Regan.
So thanks to both of you. Not only your work with, the staff and letters, I have seen you both out and about everywhere in the district. I feel like anytime somebody's talking about anything having to do with literacy, it's these two right here. And so thanks for your commitment and really digging in deep. This wasn't something that was done at a surface level. This was something that was really deep, and that things that are deep are hard. It's easy to do surface. And so thanks for digging in deep, and it was not easy work. And if we can get all kids to be able to read, then we know that we can get all kids to learn. Thank you.
Director Donna.
I just want to underscore what Director Payne said, that there was a meeting here when Representative Anderson came to visit, and she called me afterwards and just was so impressed with the work that you guys did. So just to underscore that it certainly, you took it to higher levels beyond just Mahtomedi. So thank you.
And I just want to add my thanks as well. We are very lucky to have you in our district. I know that you are valued statewide. And I, as Barb has heard me say many times, we can do a lot for students, but really it's their ability to learn to read that will change the trajectory of their life. And Kelly summed it up perfectly too. Once they can read, then they can learn. And so I just feel like it's just so fundamental to everything else that we do here. And I think you guys are superstars, and we're really lucky to have you. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
Clap and we.
Ryan and I.
Getting any taller. No. Well, I'm certainly not. I'm bringing down the average. 5'4". Oh, it's okay. You cannot complain.
5'6".
All right, we are ready to move on to the Zephyr Learning Showcase discussion. Do you want to start us off or do we just jump in?
Well, however you'd like to do it. So this is our opportunity earlier before the meeting, for those of you watching at home, before the meeting, we had a Zephyr Learning Showcase, which is an opportunity for our students to come in and show us firsthand the work they've been doing and get to talk about their projects and allow us to ask some questions and dive a little bit deeper into what it is they're learning. And so this is our chance to kind of share some of those things that we got to see and talk about this evening. So whoever would like to begin.
I'll go real briefly. The two things that I saw that were really cool tonight, getting a chance to see the pictures and talk to some of the folks that participated in the Lion King Junior presentation. I didn't recognize, and it shows how naive I am, but just seeing how much time and effort they put into preparing for that. I thought that was pretty impressive. And then I also got a chance to hear from the group that was representing OH and talking about their morning meeting routine. Having an OH student who doesn't like to share exactly what she's participating in, it was really cool to see firsthand what they get to do and how they get to get up in front of their entire school and their classmates and kind of be put on the spot a little bit, but also have to present to the entire school. So I thought that was really interesting.
Dr. Peterson.
This being only the second Zephyr showcase I've seen, I liked both ways they were set up, but I liked tonight how there was just each school represented. You could go and the two elementary schools were neat because I knew some of the kids, but then I wanted to focus on Zoe. She was the middle band video over there. She took Silent Night and just made these beautiful snowy pine trees and candles, and it was very calming and beautiful, and I could just imagine watching that around. And she said they did that at the high school Christmas program this year, concert.
Dr. Regan.
I'm sure you can guess which one I'm going to talk about because Ishna from the high school, oh my goodness, I was just blown away with not only did she presented her work by designing her own website, she coded her own website. And I asked her where she learned that. And she said, well, I learned from a nonprofit and now I teach kids how to code. And now she teaches 6th grade students how to code. And I said, is this something that you want to do beyond high school? And she said, yes. And I said, please do. We need more girls who code. She was very humble. She didn't want to toot her own horn at all. I wanted to just keep drawing more out of her because she was just absolutely amazing. So it was just really cool to see that she found something that she was passionate about and said, I'm just going to make this happen. So that was one. And if I can share about one other one, because I thought it was hilarious, the 3rd graders over here with their animal projects, and the kids were so excited. So I love the energy. And I learned some really interesting facts about elephants, that they're pregnant for 22 months. Now I'm a mom of 4 boys. I was like, wow, 8 years of my life. I don't think I would have done that. And they were talking about like the exploding ants and how they protect themselves by exploding. But the passion and excitement of the kids wanting to just share their project was really great. So it's just a reminder to me how special those moments are at all different phases of development. Everything from a student who's coding their own website to a student who's so excited about their animal project, and they're all just wonderful. So it was just great. And we don't get to, they only go through the 3rd grade once. They only go through being a junior once. And so all of those moments in those years, it was so much fun. These are my favorite things that we do always. So keep them coming. I wish we could do them every meeting.
Dr. Payne.
I appreciate not only the time everyone took to be here tonight, because it's a lot sometimes as parents and teachers to stay late and do these extra things with us. But it was a nice intersection of student passion and academics. So everything that we looked at had student passion embedded within it and was embedded, and the foundation element was the academics they've learned in their classrooms, which shows how well our teachers are doing at the integration of the wellness work that's part of our strategic plan that has been so well spearheaded by others in this district, and shows how well our teachers are thinking and doing with student-centered learning and making sure every student is getting what they need in terms of reaching the academics through their passions. So I really appreciate the way all that came together in this room tonight.
If I could just add, what was impressive about the high school kids with Miss Goucher and I mean, it was a band project. And she challenged them to be creative and think outside the box. And they did something completely different. Tied it somehow to their favorite composer. But I mean, one of the kids, Ishna, can be a computer programmer. I forget the boy's name. He could be a director and an actor for his project. And the videographer that I mean, just the connections that they made by challenging them to think outside the box, something different. And she mentioned something that 100% participation each year that she does this. So the kids really love it, and it shows in their work. So I was impressed.
I think I want to echo what Kelly said. It is my favorite thing we do as a district. I wish there was somehow the whole community could see it, although it was pretty energetic and I don't know how we could fit more people. But because we're not in the classroom every day, and to just get those snippets and have that, it's really special. So I'm really thankful for all the effort that goes into it. I thought they were all great. So Dr. Payne.
I want to build on what Director Donna started in his thinking. The fact that I think what you're calling out, Director Donna, is this idea of critical thinking, right? That it shows how our students are using critical thinking. And that's one of those skills that we can't test on MCAs, but we can see in this room, and we can see how well our students are doing academically because they have those skills. And there's no other way for us to see them right now except to come to this showcase. But it really shows the strong academics in our schools because of the critical thinking. So I really appreciate you calling that out.
Well, I also want to add on to what happened with the band there, because later in my presentation, Zoe's actually an award winner as well for the poetry that she wrote that went along with her video. She had won something at the White Bear Center for the Arts, and so she told me, well, I had this spoken word just sitting here, so I thought I'd submit it. And I said, okay, well, that's great that you just have those sitting around. So I wanted to just emphasize that as well. And Ms. Goucher also wanted us to know that that was something that came out of COVID. And she said that was something that they got creative during COVID, and that was something that came out of that. So I also wanted to highlight with the OHA students who do the morning announcements in their little jackets. They told me that it takes them a week to put all that together. So it's an ongoing, it's a big project. They're not just winging it. They're really thinking about it. And they talk through some of the challenges they have working together and negotiating who gets to do what. And so I appreciated all the work that goes into that. And the jackets are lovely. I believe you made the stars for them, right? Yeah. So thanks.
Okay, well, it is our final report from our student representative. So you're up.
Final one, I'm not going out with a bang because there's not a lot happening at the school right now, but that's okay. So one of the things was Night at the Theater, which was last Friday, and this is something the theater department puts on every year as kind of a fundraiser, but it's a really cool event because the students get to perform whatever they want. So there'll be acting performances, singing, pretty much anything related to art you'd see there, and they're coming up with that all on their own, which is pretty amazing. Then boys tennis won the section championship, which is pretty awesome for them. I feel like boys tennis doesn't always get a lot of recognition at the high school, but they're killing it this season, so it's really cool to see. And then an upcoming event is the STEM Expo on the 31st of May, and this has happened before. It's pretty much just a time for all of the students involved with the STEM programs at our school to show off what they've been working on. So you'll see the robots, and the robot whatnot. You'll see rockets, can do a tour of the Fab Lab. So also a super cool event. But yeah, the high school is getting a little bit slower and slower every day. I think the students are kind of getting ready to head into summer. A lot of the clubs are turning over to new leaders, which is always exciting and whatnot. But that's all I have for today. Mhm.
Music?
All right, how about now? Hey. Did I turn it off? I turned it off. Now, there it is. Okay, so overview. I'll just give you some things, highlight some things that are going on around the district, give you a strategic plan update. I'll give you a little bit of a legislative update, but there's still more to be worked out. And I've kind of shared with you a little bit of where we can hear more, and then just upcoming community engagement events. So since we were together last, the celebration of excellence happened where we honor our top 10% of the graduating class. You may see someone familiar in there. And so that was a fun evening. A number of us made it to that, and it's always a real highlight to both hear about where the students are going, and hear the teachers talk about the students and honor the students, but also to see the students be able to honor a teacher that made a difference in their career. So fun evening for us. We've had Passion Day at OHA, and here are some highlights from that, where teachers were able to share an interest they may have or something they wanted to teach. We also had a few community members come in as well. And our students got to choose what they wanted to learn. And these were hosted by teacher, staff, and community volunteers. There were some career opportunities that you would see, then also I see a strategy game up there and some artwork and some things outdoors as well. I mentioned this earlier about Zoe winning a poetry award for the work that we just saw this evening, but we had a number of students who won for the Right Now Awards, which is through the White Bear Center of the Arts. And so I was able to attend the Right Now Awards. The Visual Arts Awards happened during a board meeting, so we weren't able to attend that, but I believe the artwork is still up at the White Bear Center for the Arts if you'd like to go and see some of our student artwork. We had quite a few winners. Last night was scholarship night, and I just thought I'd highlight a few things. We had 45 students honored. 26 different awards were presented, and the scholarships totaled over $100,000 for our students. So we want to thank, of course, all the generous donations we've had, all the organizations, the foundations, the individuals who put together these scholarships for our students. We do have one again with us here at the at the table, one of the award winners. So it's always a fun event because we get to hear how accomplished our students are and all that they're doing to contribute both academically and just personally, whether it's service or character. There are a lot of different ways students are honored and recognized at that event. We also had a future educators celebration. I know a few of you were able to make it there. We had 11 students that we honored who have plans to go into education. And so we had an opportunity to honor them with a breakfast and a small recognition before school. Was that this week? That was even this week. Oh my goodness. So
Yesterday,
No,
oh,
2 days ago.
Wednesday is yesterday.
Wednesday,
Yesterday was
was
it?
it
yesterday.
was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It has been quite a week of fun things happening, lots of celebrations. So this was a fun one to have so many students going into education and so many impressive students at that who are going into education. So our future looks bright. It was fun to talk to them. just a quick strategic plan update. I know a number of you've heard this already, but I'll just reiterate, our action teams did finish their meetings on May 2nd. And the teams have created action plans that establish those future projects, plans, and initiatives. These are the things that they would like to see us do and the results they would like to see, the results they'd like as from these action plans. So they will be presented to the planning team in June. It's also the case we had feedback on our mission and objectives in a number of different ways. And so based on that, we did have a small group work on improving that language to clarify it, to make it clearer our intention around academic achievement, personal success, leadership, readiness for the world after high school, community building. So that group did some things to improve that, the language of the mission and objectives. The planning team still needs to see it. So they will see it in June also, and they may have some other things they want to alter, tweak, change, but we've gotten feedback from the planning team as well, so that we're prepared in June to be able to go forward and bring something to you that's a little more, I don't know, a little clearer about our intention. And so we will have that full strategic plan for you to review and then take action on when you feel ready for it to go forward. So we have our meeting June 11th for the planning team, 13th for the planning team, sorry. And then after that would be a time when we would be able to bring that forward to you. Just a legislative update. I'm not going to give you much at this point because tomorrow AMSD is going to do a much deeper dive for us. There was a lot in the bill, and so there are some things around the language that need to be clarified for all of us. And so I just highlighted here a few things. The formula increase, which you anticipated, Jeff had built that into his budget. That was pretty much what we had been hearing all along. And the special ed cross subsidy reduction aid is in there as well. Again, a little different than what we expected, but also pretty close to what we had talked about. And then we've also talked about the READ Act, and I will say our literacy, the people we honored this evening have been working through that, the requirements and the timeline and putting that all together around the language. And then we'll learn more about exactly how the money can be accessed for curriculum and training. And that still needs to be clarified for us. But tomorrow that we'll have that meeting, you can join remotely. And then once I have more, I'll give you some more updates on that. Upcoming community engagement opportunities. We have our STEM Expo coming up on the 31st. And one of the things that's fun about this is it starts with a rocket launch, and it's always a highlight for students to launch their rockets and then for kids to go running after them. So it's fun, and we ask that you RSVP so we can plan for that. And then the PTO Spring Fling is coming up June 2nd. And of course, we have the last day of school and graduation coming up as well. It is quickly coming to a close. And Kaya mentioned that, people are looking forward to summer. They're also looking forward to finals. I think there's a lot of focus on finals as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially among the senior
I
class.
imagine the senior class is really
That's so
thinking hard
quiet.
about those finals. So that's what I have. Do you have any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Discussion items. Board member calendar. Does anyone have anything to? Dr. Payne.
So a couple things I want to call out. One, Barbara already mentioned it, but tomorrow, yes, Friday morning, AMSD, our agenda is that MDE folks will come and give their summary of what happened legislatively, but also remember MSBA will give us a written summary at some point as well. There are a couple things that don't show in our calendar yet, but I know many of you working professionals have calendars similar to mine. So I want to give you a heads up on two important dates that you can write down, put on your calendars, just so you have them. The MSBA Summer Seminar is August 7th and will be focused on literacy. And so if you have the opportunity to attend that, it's a day-long workshop. I'm not sure who's speaking yet, but that is coming. And then the AMSD Policy Conference, the date isn't announced yet, but I did find out when it is. It should be a very good conference. We're still finalizing the topics and speakers for that conference, but that is scheduled for November 9th. And so if you haven't attended those opportunities before, they're nice, they're quick, they're short, they're one day, but they're very good. Meet many other board members and superintendents from across the state, good conversations, professional development for us. So a little further out than what's usually on our calendar, but I know with your work schedules, it's good to know those things ahead of time.
Now, we are meeting on June 8th, and we are doing our best to keep it to be a brief meeting.
Not promising, just doing our best.
11. Okay. I'm sorry.
Graduation the 10th.
Saturday, June 11th right now, so
That should be fixed. June 10th. Okay. Then we have discussion of, oh, do we have Jennifer Murphy? Oh, well, yes, please come on up for discussion of the QComp.
So I'm Jenny Murtham. This is my third year as the coordinator for the Mahtomedi compensation plan. It is commonly known as QComp. Let's see, where's my little. So, oops. Tiny, can you get back one? Sorry. I accidentally hit it. So if you're interested, this is a state statute that lays out the QComp. And as part of that, we're required to report each year on what is the effectiveness of the program, what we're doing. It gets wrapped into the World's Best Workforce Report, but it's part of the professional development that happens in the school district. And for my role, I also submit a program update form to MDE. If there's any substantial changes to the program, I have to submit that before August 31st each year. So that's why I'm before you. We report out to school boards each QComp district. So one of the ways that we get feedback on how we're doing is obviously face-to-face conversations with people, but we have a pretty lengthy survey that we put out each year. And in MComp, we have two main components, and that's our professional learning communities, which are commonly called the PLCs, and the peer coaching aspect. The majority of our participants took the survey and answered to the questions related to these two components. In addition, we do have building goals, and they're MDE refers to them as site goals. These are set by the ILTs of each building. So that is something that MComp doesn't really control, and it's mandated by the state that these building goals be tied to standardized assessments. So that is one of the components. The survey results this year were
There are a couple board members that aren't really familiar with MComp because they're new to the board. So could I just back up a
Sure.
little bit? And could you just give a highlight of just high level? What is MComp? What does it stand for? What is it exactly that it does? How do we organize it? Just go a little more in depth.
Okay. So MComp is Mahtomedi compensation plan, and it is tied to the QComp dollars that we get from the state, but it's basically part of it is individualized professional development for the teachers. So the peer coaches, there's 4 of us, and we are district-wide employees, but we are based for the 4 buildings, Wildwood, OH, the middle school and the high school. And so we meet with the teachers to work with them to improve in the areas in which they want to improve. So they're directing what their growth is. For example, a lot of the Wildwood teachers, understandably this year, were focused on letters. That was where they wanted to grow in their skills. And so that's what they worked with their peer coach on. We follow a cognitive coaching model, so it's metacognition, working with teachers, thinking about their thinking, getting to the why of why are they making the decisions that they're making in their classroom. So that's kind of the one component of it. The other component, the professional learning communities, PLCs have been in our district since, I think, 2003. So about 20 years we've had PLCs. And that is more of a collective effort where the teachers depending on the building that they're in the high school, they're organized by their departments. Elementary is usually grade level or specialists. And that's where you get that collective efficacy to impact the student learning. And they set goals for their PLC. Did you have a question? Okay, sure.
So this program is an in-house program, right? That we
Yes.
choose.
Yes.
We chose not to do it on our own. There's a state program that would essentially do it for us. Is that what I understand?
Not exactly. So we would most likely be having PLCs and some form of coaching for teachers because it is part of their professional development. The difference is because we are part of a QComp district, we get state dollars to support that. So way back when QComp started, PLCs were a little bit new and just kind of coming into the fore. And that helped make it actually become kind of the standard. Any district has they all have PLCs now. But at the beginning, it was kind of a new thing.
Could I just add, but not every district is a QComp district. And we opted in to be one. So
Early.
I would say, yes, we have our own compensation program. And it's because we are part of QComp, we get the state to fund that.
Right. So we're fortunate to have the state funding. In fact, QComp is the state is not accepting any other districts in the QComp program. Maxed out as far as the funding and the dollars. So anyhow, so yeah. So our survey result, getting back to our survey results, I put a couple quotes here that we got in relation to the PLCs, as I referred to those professional learning communities. And I'm not going to read them to you because I know you can read. So just give you a little time to read them. So in the second quote, you can see that someone referred to the common challenge. That's linked back to what I talked about. The PLCs, each PLC set a goal, and it's a student learning goal. One of the changes that we made this year was it's called the common challenge, but that's essentially their student learning goal. It's what they're working with their colleagues and alongside to improve the student learning. So in here, this is where we really see some of the impact. To what degree does working towards your PLC's common challenges contribute to better results for the students? We had 83.2% that selected either high impact or medium impact. So, or I'm sorry, high impact or somewhat high. That speaks really well to the value that the teachers feel is coming from this time to work with their colleagues to try and improve the student learning. And then another question we wanted to ask specifically about their teachers' feelings about how they feel that their daily work contributes to that PLC's common challenge. And again, this 94.7 is a fantastic result. Myself and the peer coaches were really pleased with this because, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes when the building goal has to be based on a standardized assessment, sometimes teachers feel that it's not quite as close to their daily work. And we've worked really hard to get some alignment between the PLC's common challenges support the building goals and how they all align together to impact the student learning. So this also helps, obviously, the teachers feel more invested that this is worthwhile and impacting their kids that they're working with. And with another section of the survey, we as peer coaches are of course always trying to improve and want to get feedback on how we're doing. And these are a couple quotes that we got from there. Our favorite is coaching is like getting advice for yourself from yourself. I feel like it just perfectly it captures what cognitive coaching is. The four coaches, Beth Erlenborn, Ann Gale, Sekordik, and myself, that we just thought that was the perfect quote, because we are truly trying to develop each teacher's capacity to do their own self-reflection and work on their own metacognition. So we also had individual results that we reviewed as a team and worked on our to identify our areas of strength and our areas of growth where like I said, that's the whole reason for asking for the feedback. One of the other main questions is, how valuable is peer coaching to professional development? 80% chose 4 or 5. So on a sliding scale, 5 is very valuable. I would say 4 is pretty high in value. And so again, that was very affirming for us. I think the peer coaching, because it's individualized and it's one-on-one, that teachers really enjoy that time to reflect, to really dig deep and think about, okay, and talk it through with a colleague that they respect and look at what they're doing in the classroom. So another thing that is really important to the program is being non-evaluative and non-judgmental. This is when we do peer coaching, we are not evaluative. That's the administrators, that's their job to be evaluative. We're there to help teachers grow and take risks and do things to try and improve their craft. And so being non-judgmental is what allows them to do that and it results in some of those fun projects that you get to see, that they're not being stagnant, they're continuing to improve. So again, we were but 96.2 I thought was fantastic when, for a 4 or 5 on that. And lastly, we had a question about environment, peer coaches that foster an environment of professional trust and confidentiality. Trust is one of the most important foundations to a good coaching relationship. And so that this question is really of great importance. 99.2% have either a 4 or 5 on that one. So that, again, we thought was really great. So the impact of the results is we got great feedback on things that are going great, things that we need to improve on. We are going to continue to work on that coherence between what teachers are doing in their daily work, how that and the PLC work both support the building goals and work towards the strategic plan that the districts put in place. And also for the PLCs, some PLCs get large. And so we have responded to feedback by allowing some more flexibility in the groupings and worked on communicating the why of the peer coaching so that there's better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And then finally, we have PLC facilitators that run the PLCs. They're not in charge, they're facilitating, but we offer PD, and when I say we, I mean myself and the peer coaches. We offer professional development for the PLC facilitators, and the topics come directly from the facilitators themselves saying, we would like more on this, or this was helpful, or this is something that we feel we need a little more information or learning about. So that was that. And lastly, I have, I know it's been kind of a long meeting. So Mike Newman is a kindergarten teacher, and she kindly made a short video, and in her video, you'll hear her talk about the impact on student learning as a result of the peer coaching. She's a very soft-spoken person, so Leslie's gonna crank up the volume. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I mean, you can't hear her? I can hear her. Just kidding. No. Tanya?
We were seeing students struggling to
Okay,
engage.
well, can you start over and put her on?
Hi, I'm Michelin Newman, a kindergarten teacher at Wildwood Elementary. And I believe that having instructional coaches in our schools is an effective way to support teachers and influence student success in the classroom. This fall, Beth Erlenborn helped our team with a grade-wide common challenge. We were seeing students struggling to engage in our whole group phonemic awareness lessons. And we know that this is a crucial foundational skill in learning to read. So our team asked Beth if she would come in and videotape us teaching these phonemic awareness lessons. And we wanted to watch them afterwards and see if there was areas that we could improve on as teachers, and then watch our students to see who we could encourage or scaffold things for, or help them to be successful in it. To my encouragement, I saw all of my students participating to some degree. And this was very encouraging to me as a teacher to see that there was effective learning going on. I also saw a few students that were only participating to maybe a minimal degree, and I was able to switch their position in the room and maybe slow down how I was speaking and make some changes. As a kindergarten team, we discussed what we had all learned, and we shared ideas to use in the future. As you may know, next year I will change positions and take over Beth's spot as a peer instructional coach at Wildwood. And this is a big change for me, as I've been teaching kindergarten in the classroom for 21 years. I believe that peer coaching has benefited me to be a better teacher, and feel that I would love to pass that on to my colleagues. Recently, I shadowed Beth while she met with another teacher for that teacher's final meeting. Through questions and thoughtful dialogue, the teacher was able to reflect on her teaching and come to some conclusions that I believe will influence her future practices with students. It was amazing to watch and inspiring to me as an educator.
Oh. Oops. Oh. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Director Egan.
So thank you for sharing all of that. So first of all, comment and having worked in education most of my life as well, that I think that what you said about the trusting relationship is so important, because if teachers are going to really pause and reflect and take a look at their practice, that relationship is so important. And so that's not easy. And so that takes time and for those relationships to be formed. But I guess the other piece is, as educators, everything just keeps moving and it's on to the next day and the next lesson, and taking that time to self-reflect is really important. And sometimes that's a big cultural shift to be able to watch yourself on video and have to. And so what has been the hardest part, I guess, about this? I mean, I know this isn't new, so this isn't new in Mahtomedi, but what's the hardest part, or how do you tackle that when somebody's not used to that? Because it is so powerful what can happen when you take time to pause, reflect, and take a look at that. But or is it hard? Maybe it's just a quick yes or no, but I'm just curious, that's a culture shift from teachers are trained to be the I know it all, and I'm the gatekeeper of that information, and it's like you said, it's taking risks and doing things a little differently.
It is. I would introduce the vulnerability piece too, that you have to have a relationship developed such that people are willing to be vulnerable and admit, yeah, I don't know it all. And teachers do reflect and they make adjustments on the fly. If it didn't go great first hour, they switch it for second hour. But what we're doing is a different kind of reflecting. This is a lot deeper and a lot more longer lasting than just, oh, I need to shorten this by 5 minutes when I present it next time. I would say because we've been doing it so long, a lot of people, okay, let me back up. So I'm in a PLC with the peer coaches and with some of the other teachers that are on a special assignment and they work district wide because we all work with adults. So that's our PLC and our subgroup. And one of the things that we did for one of our common challenges was we want to make sure that our coaching meetings are as helpful as possible. So we asked this one question of all of our teachers and got really great answers from them. But I would say that the theme of a lot of the answers was that they really value this coaching model because it does allow them to reflect and they recognize the difference between that on the fly reflecting and the really deep thinking about their craft. Like that they recognize that there's a distinct difference between having a professional conversation with someone and just the, like you said, kind of the hamster wheel of teaching where you're running and trying to get to the next thing. So I don't find it real hard to get buy-in. They all in their heart of heart, the kid people know. Yeah, teachers know.
I guess the last comment I have on that is I happened to be talking to a teacher from the high school and just asked how things were going. And one of the things that that teacher brought up to me was how valuable that time for the peer coaching has been. And this is not a teacher who's new. This is someone who's been in our district for a long time. That again, they're still in it to continue to grow and learn. And it was pretty awesome to hear that was what they were most excited about when I just asked, how's it going at the high school? So thank you.
But I'll take that as a compliment on behalf of the whole, all the peer coaches.
I want to echo that. I hear, I've heard many times how valuable the peer coaching is. And I think it's very valuable. Can you explain to us or remind some of us how, when somebody becomes a peer coach, is that a transitional position? Are they there for a couple of years? I can't remember how they're chosen or that sort of thing.
We do have term limits. It's a 3 to 4 year position, and they have to apply. There's certain qualifications. You have to have your master's degree. You have to have been in the district for minimum 7 years in Mahtomedi, letter of recommendations from your principal, et cetera. And then they go through the whole interview process. So yeah, it is it's fun. It's fun to have to be. I appreciate being a peer coach and being able to, I get to see a lot of things because we do observations. So it's fun to go observe and see what's happening. But yeah. So their peer coaches are 3 to 4 years. And then my position as the coordinator is maximum of 5 years.
Dr. Payne, build on what you started, Director Stout. As you think about the whole process, right? I like the fact that we have the term limits because it allows many of our teachers to have this opportunity because you're learning at the same time, right? I mean, you don't walk into this knowing all the answers, but you're learning a lot too. So could you, and maybe Sue, if she's up to it, share with us some of the things you've learned from being in these positions and how that impacts your practice as you at some point go back to the classroom?
So I will share that this is my 3rd year as coordinator and next year will be this next coming school year will be my last year as coordinator / peer coach. So I already have a file of all these, return to teaching, like a hard copies and a digital doc of all these lists of like, oh, I have this idea, that idea, I'm gonna do this and that. So yeah, I have a ton of ideas about, this is how I could teach vocabulary this way. I was a Spanish teacher. So you're always seeing things through a different lens and picking up ideas just everywhere. Science classroom, math classroom, it doesn't matter. You do pick up a lot of ideas. Sue, did you want to? chime
You
in?
don't have to, so.
I don't, you wanna,
Under the microphone, if you don't mind. I know you have lots of good learnings too.
Like Jenny, there are a lot of specific things that I've seen that have been wowed by, and just I've learned that the depth of knowledge and expertise we have in our district, which is amazing. But I think overall, what I've been reminded of over and over is that while there are best practices, there is never one right way to do something, and that it is so important to do what will engage your students, not what fits the way you like to teach. And to try things. And you just really don't know what something's going to feel like and how it's going to work until you try it. And then even if you try it once, you don't know how it might have gone the day before, or the day after, or with a different group of kids. So you really just have to, it's a professional practice. You always have to be open to be learning and changing and growing. And I think peer coaching is a way to keep that spirit all the way through people's career.
Questions?
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I think this is a really important program in our district. And so it's great to hear from you. And I know it used to be set up differently, and one board member would go to the Q comp meeting. You might remember this. Let's see, when they had a meeting and it was much more engaged. Anyway, it was much more involved. And I really had a good insight into what the program consisted of. And so I feel like I just have that background and really appreciate everything. And then also knowing what you do as peer coordinators, and having known some of the peer coordinators because they've been my kids' teachers, I just have a lot of respect for all pieces of that. And so I think it's great for us to continue to hear about it each year. So thank you.
thank you.
Wellness update.
All right, good evening. Thanks. All right, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to give an update on where we're at with wellness and as a district, and I'm going to start. Oh, there we go. So here's an overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. I do recognize that there's a lot of people that are new to the board, and this is something that has definitely been in the works for at least 5 years that I can speak to. So I do want to take some time to focus on the history and how we got to where we're at. Talk about the importance of why we're doing this work. Touch on our North Home services, which are our co-located mental health services. My Savers, our universal screener, and wellness supports around the district. So history of our program. So the whole piece where our programming came up. So if I just back it up to 2018, 2019, that school year, that was my first year here. And as a special ed director, I was often at tables with parents of students who were struggling and really looking for help. And oftentimes at these meetings, the question was, well, is your child receiving any mental health supports or mental health services? And I just kept hearing it over and over again, where we're on a wait list. It's so hard to find somebody. It's impossible to find something that works for our schedule. And you can only hear those things so many times before you're like, well, we probably should do something about this. Again, that was information. It was rather anecdotal that we were hearing. So we also wanted to make sure, like, is this something that maybe, just that I'm self-selected, that I'm hearing this information, or is this really a need that we want to pursue as a school district? So as part of that, we sent out surveys to all our families and really try to get a feel for who's currently receiving mental health services. If mental health services were available in our schools, would you pursue them? What are the barriers to you accessing mental health services, to really lay a foundation, and we could really get a clear picture on this is where we're at as a district, and is this something we want to pursue collectively or not? It did come back that yes, there is a need. And there were also, one of the most helpful things was to also identify what some of those barriers are. I always find it in looking, and if you think of it as we go through this presentation, like one of the big barriers at the beginning was, yes, my child needs help, but what about all the stigma attached to mental health services? And I find that a really important piece, because now I don't feel like we can really go anywhere without talking about what's the impact on mental health. We also, if you kind of rewind it, we had these conversations pre-COVID. So that was completely unexpected. But as we entered COVID, we had already laid down the foundation, started to build these supports in our schools that we were able to respond to the needs of our students. So just after that survey, another piece of the component was, what can we do as a school district? But also the sense of urgency to really go after something big became the foundation for our fund and need through MAIF that year. So we raised almost $70,000 through MAIF, which is, I know we just had that not that long ago, and it's a pretty impressive how the community really rallies behind a cause. And in 2019, it was the mental health, and we focused on prevention, intervention, and support. And the prevention, we did a lot of community presentations. Intervention was staff development and meeting with kids. And then the support was just removing access and barriers to people receiving those supports. Another piece that emerged at that same time was we were going through our first strategic plan, or first iteration of what it is now. That definitely came up as a strategy, and then manifested in action plan themes. And as you can see on the left here, that really, focused or helped us focus on it, because not only was, again, what started as conversations around the table and meetings, and then we did the survey, but then became the fund and need, but it also became part of who we are as a strategic plan. So community members, so stakeholders, I know Barb has talked about that at length with you guys, but that's who was sitting around, and it emerged as, this is something that we want to pursue as a district. So everything really emerged at the same time, where there was a lot of teeth around, this is something we really need to go after, and we need to make sure that we do it well. And some of the progress, what have we done over time? Our Zephyr Wellness Program emerged out of the MAIF Fund and Need. I really am cautious to not call it an initiative. Sometimes initiative comes with, we're going to do it and then it might go away. And we really like to refer to it as a program. It's who we are. We believe in it. And the North Homes in-school therapy, we've been having community presentations. We've provided staff development in a number of different areas. And we've also, this year, we added CTSS, which is Children's Therapeutic Services and Supports, to our co-located services with North Homes. So I like this graphic to really, sometimes there's the why are we focusing, or why do we embed mental health services and supports in our schools? And this graphic really speaks to me on the importance. So if you look at the top here, this is, of course, where we want our students to be, where we want everyone to be. And I think our strategic plan speaks to this top area, but it also speaks to these foundational building blocks that we need. And a lot of this is directly related to the mental wellness of our students. So it's just a good graphic to highlight, they are building blocks. And as we move up to where that highest level of where we want our students to be, it's essential that they have these lower foundational skills in order to reach their highest potential. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our North Homes therapy services. We really have a unique relationship with North Homes. I feel the value that North Homes brings to us is really a commitment to meet the needs of our students. I think it's unique to Mahtomedi. They do not approach us as saying, we have 2 staff members and that's all we have for you, and good luck. The conversation was really, we are going to work with you to meet the needs of your students. So we're committed to, as needs increase, we are going to increase our staffing in order to address those needs. And that's critical. If you have a student who you are looking to access these services and you find out that the wait list is months down the road and all those other barriers about, well, who else can I find? It can be, really defeating. And if it's your child, you want them to be able to access those services as quickly as possible. So Our partnership with North Homes is second to none. I can't speak highly enough about the work that they do. They also, as with anything, it's not just about the filling a vacancy with a body, but it's about the people performing that work. And they have outstanding professionals. They are hired through North Homes. They are employed through North Homes. But every new hire, I am also involved with the hiring process. So we partner on that. So it's North Homes finds them, and then they say, Tony, we've got a candidate here or several, and we're running interviews. Then we talk about it, and it's really a collaboration, which again I think is unique, and it really highlights their commitment to focusing on what's best for Mahtomedi Public Schools as they're in our schools. I want to just speak a little bit about the CTSS. So this is new. So this was new this year. And the way to think about CTSS is it helps me. I'm a big, if I hear an analogy, that helps me kind of visualize a little more. So Lindsay Lehman, who is the director of North Homes down here in the metro area, speaks of if you picture an iceberg, and we've all seen that photo that I think is manipulated a little bit, but you get it, where that big iceberg, right? And everything you see above the water that's what your CTSS, that's your skills work. So it's a lot of like, if I have a behavior or I'm feeling, maybe I'm starting to get a little bit of anxiety, what are the skills I'm going to have to deal with that anxiety so that I can be in the class? I don't have to leave class. I can come to school. So it's a lot of that skills work. And then everything under the surface, that huge piece that's the therapeutic piece. So CTSS isn't therapy. The therapy, so students, in order to access CTSS, they have to be referred through a therapist, but a CTSS is performed by a mental health practitioner. And then the therapeutic services are performed by a mental health therapist. And if that's unclear, we can talk more about that. But just the biggest thing is it's an added component that we have to support kids at a different level than just therapy. And this is a great graphic. So in 2018-19, we currently in our district, and it sounds kind of unbelievable if we really start to think about it based on where we're at right now, but we had one half-time mental health therapist that was located at our high school. So out of our whole district, we had 23 students that were receiving services. And that was a snapshot, but right around 20 to 25. And it was a halftime person that was here at the high school. So you think back to those conversations district-wide on, I'm really having trouble accessing mental health services. We just didn't have them in our buildings. Not to mention the ones outside of the buildings create some other barriers. So we formed a partnership in 2019-20, and we added, so we were up to 2.5 therapists and 65 total students in our district that were accessing those services. 2021 or 2021, 2 therapists, 128 total students. Oops. All right. And then the next year, you can see that as the numbers are increasing, they were up to 144 total students. We were able to bring on 3 therapists. And then for this year, we had 4 therapists, 4 practitioners. It was our first year of CTSS. We have 131 students that have been receiving therapy and 79 students that have received CTSS. So these lighter green numbers, they might be these same students, but this is a different, it's a different service. And in order for a child, I think this is important, and in order for a child to access the skills work, the CTSS work, they don't have to be seen through North Homes in order to access that. So if they might have a different agency, or they might be working with Embolden You, who's in town, and they have a therapist, if the therapist recommends CTSS services in the school, they can access the North Homes skills worker during the school day. And I really think that this is an interesting graphic, because if you look at this, and you look at the 79 students, that's 79 students this year that have been receiving services that previously didn't exist. Next year, we are going to, again, have 4 therapists and 4 practitioners. So we will have a mental health therapist and a mental health practitioner in every one of our buildings. Next piece is our universal screener, the My Sabers. We've been doing that for years at the elementary buildings. Our K2 building, it's actually Sabers, so it's teacher answered. And then once they get to the grade 3, it's My Sabers. So My Sabers means it's a student self-assessment. And the SABERS stands for Social, Academic, and Emotional Behavior Risk Screener. I gave this presentation, it's kind of blurry. I can't remember if it was last year or at the beginning of the year, but I do know some questions came up about what's involved with this. And so I laid it all out right here so that we could see these are the questions that are asked on this assessment. It is not a diagnostic tool. It's a universal screener is meant to capture as many students as possible and to get those results. And then we can start drilling down on that. So it's not meant to say, it's step 1, and then we can start going with subsequent steps based on the results of this screener and the individual needs of maybe some students that's surfaced. The students, when they get these questions, they are to respond never, sometimes, often, or almost always. And then the results that the staff see or students are sorted as low risk, some risk, or high risk. If students really qualify in that high risk or even some risk, they go through minute meetings or they meet with the counselors. So that way they're making the contact, parents are notified, hey, we did the screener, we noticed there was some concerns here, and then we open up the conversation, and where that goes is going to be unique to the child. That I should add that this is and I put that on there, but this is an opportunity that it's not a mandatory thing. It's part of our assessment calendar. So we try to loop that in at the same time we're doing math assessments. But if a parent were to say, I don't want my child to participate, that is just fine. But it is an opt-out instead of an opt-in. We're really trying to, part of the whole point of the universal screener is to catch as many students as possible and to really get that global view. And if we were to switch that and maybe say, we want students to opt into that, we realize that we're probably going to miss somebody just through that piece. Another piece that I learned last time from the presentation was, how do we communicate this and how are we letting parents know? So here's just a sample. I pulled these two because it's new with these two buildings this year. So at the left, you will see the communication that went out at the middle school, and on the right, you will see the communication that went out at the high school. There are links that provide more information on both of these that families can click on and see samples or more information on this assessment or screener. This is a snapshot of just some of the things that are going around the district. A lot of this, as I was putting this together, it's really interesting where it's really become who we are. So a lot of this stuff is just, if you were to talk to teachers or staff or the kids in the building, they're like, yeah, we do this all the time. It's not so much new anymore. But I really think it highlights how much we have, how seriously we've taken that strategic plan and the feedback that we got. And we said, we need to embed this in the work that we do. And really it's the more needs a child has, the more supports they can access. And we're really just trying to be as responsive as possible to the needs of the children. So here's a snapshot of OH Anderson. And again, they have been doing, OH Anderson and Wildwood have been doing the SABERS universal screener for a number of years. Mahtomedi Middle School, some of the really fun that I think we should be really proud of is how they're using the schedule to allow students, again, it's mental wellness. So that Zephyr time is really a key time for students to connect, but with each other, but also with the adults. And we have a therapy dog that was started last year at the middle school, which is just super cool to see. Some of those pieces that people might not wonder or realize with that is there was, and it was helpful for me to know that, is that we didn't just show up with dogs in the classroom, is that they did survey the families and said, this is something that we want to try. Are there any concerns? Are there cultural issues with having dogs there? Are there allergies? Are there just fears? And we really tried to work with families to find alternatives or to work around that, because the last thing we wanted to do was disrupt the learning. We're trying to enhance the learning. One of the great things for next year is the middle school success that all students at middle school are going to be able to access, and that's focusing on executive functioning skills, which anybody who's familiar with middle school students is something that they could all benefit from. And Mahtomedi High School has something similar with their flex time. They've, over the years, it's evolved and they've become very intentional about some of that versus if needs come up, we're reaching out to students or creating those avenues for students to connect with staff. So at the, we started this last year with our advanced academics, which was formerly gifted and talented, but it just Laura Enright, who works with them, incorporated SEL groups and SEL learning with those students. Again, if you think back to that foundational building blocks that I showed at the beginning of this, when we know we have those students that are ready to excel academically, still those foundational pieces still exist. So we just want to make sure that we are taking time to focus on those skills in order for those kids to reach their highest potential. This is a snapshot of the community events. We started off, I think our first year, 2018-19, we probably held about 5 or 6 Zephyr Wellness events. Into the pandemic, we held a few online, and then we kind of took a break. It was hard to get a lot of people together in the same room. We were still dealing with that, but this year we kicked it open again this spring. We held 2 events. North Homes, our provider, held one, and then Embolden You, who is a local agency, conducted another one. At each of these groups, we had approximately 75 community members. So 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, together 75 community members to come learn about mental health. I really think that speaks to the buy-in and the commitment that, or the need to continue this work. I will say as we've been doing this, we certainly aren't just, coasting. We're continually evolving and trying to assess the effectiveness of our programming to make sure that we're doing what's best for kids. Oops, I clicked on the link accidentally. Hey, there we go. All right. And we gave in January at the MSBA Leadership Conference, we held a roundtable discussion. So we held 3 approximately 25-minute conversations with other board members around, or superintendents around the state. Director Payne is making a cameo at the bottom of that picture there. This was extremely well attended. I think we probably had 45-ish people at each session. And I think that again is an indicator of the need, and districts are looking for, how are you doing it? This is what we're doing. What tips can we glean from your experiences? It was a really great conversation. And, I think it's important that we share our journey and we share the work that we've done, because, when things are working, we don't want those to live in isolation. So this was a great opportunity to talk about that. And I think when it was all said and done, I stuck around for another half hour, just talking to some superintendents and board members about what's going on in their district and how to get creative about things. I do, and this slide reminds me, because I brought this up at the presentation, is, we talk a lot about North Homes because that's our co-located mental health services. They aren't our sole mental health workers. So we have counselors in our buildings. We have social emotional specialists in our buildings. We have social workers in our buildings. So it's really a collaborative effort. So some are district employed and some are, non-district employed, such as North Homes, but it's all hands on deck. And we're fortunate enough that we have a lot of talent in our district that can focus on this good work.
Before you click away, can I add something?
Yeah.
So if you look at the picture, this is 8 o'clock on a Friday morning in downtown Minneapolis. And you can see the other tables behind us that the chairs are empty, right? Meanwhile, people to come listen to Tony are pulling chairs away from other tables because I think you were the most popular round table of this time segment because of the topic and the timeliness and the important work that we're doing. But you can't fully see, you can see a little bit back there of how that's happening. But this is 8 o'clock on a Friday morning at the end of a conference. And it was just super impressive that many people were interested in the topic and came with so many questions and were interested. So thank you for doing that presentation.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It's great to talk about what we're doing here in Mahtomedi. So I believe that is it. So I would welcome any questions or comments if
So the survey's 5 years old and a lot of things have changed in people's attitudes about a lot of things. And is there a plan to redo the survey, a community survey?
there isn't a plan to do one, but that's certainly something that, yeah.
Just
we can
because
talk
most
about.
of this came from that survey, right?
Yeah.
Let's do this. let's do
Yep. Yeah. Be interested. Yeah. Yeah. How are we doing?
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me just clarify though, that survey was about the access to mental health supports. And it was specifically about building the North Holmes partnership. And we've seen that we have, so that's not all students aren't accessing North Holmes. It's for the students that need it. So that was what that survey was about. And but also other things that we've talked about came out of the strategic plan. So I just wanted to make clear that
Yeah.
that survey specifically was about co-located mental health supports.
Specifically as it relates to the My Sabers survey, you clearly laid out that parents have the ability to opt in or opt out, start to opt out. Do parents get an opportunity to review the questions that are part of the survey prior to deciding to opt out for their kids?
Yeah. I believe in those links that were
Yeah.
provided through that communication.
Yep.
It brings you to the My Sabers website.
Yep.
And that's where you can get, so the
Okay.
questions that I posted there, they're right there.
Okay, so the My Sabers survey is a standard survey. It's not unique to Mahtomedi.
No,
Okay.
those
gotcha.
questions that I presented there, are what everybody who takes it are gonna see.
Okay, cool. Next.
I have a question about, obviously you're having to cover a lot of ground with what students are, what they're facing and what they're going through. But just focusing on the executive functioning piece. So I'm still concerned that our current 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, that's kind of a group that they kind of missed the window of, they won't be at the middle school next year. And to be part of the improvements that'll be made, is there something we can do to try to maybe ramp up for those grades? Because I worry, those are the grades they were in middle
Sixth
school in
grade.
COVID. And they really missed a lot of that growth in executive functioning. So I don't know if we have the resources or, if there's a bandwidth there, but I would like to see us try to come up with something to expand to that group.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say, and I didn't probably highlight it enough, but first of all, yes, that's always ongoing work that I think we could improve on. The middle school success that we're offering next year is a direct response to recognizing that all kids need these skills. Another piece that we did add this year was we have a paraprofessional that's it's called the Academic Resource Center at the middle school. So it's open to all students. And it's a place where students can not only go to get as a quiet place to take tests, to work on assignments, to have tests read to them. And again, I'm talking to all students have access to this. It's right off the media center. But also if they start to fall behind, to work with the para there to say, what's your plan for getting back on track? Or you were out with an illness and you were out for 4 days. Let's talk about, what work do you need to do? Why don't you come in here? So there's support there. We also have another version of that. It looks a little different, but it's again new this year at the high school. And she currently runs 1 hour a day explicitly addressing executive functioning for students. And that's available to that's more of a focused population than at the middle school, but it is a step in the right direction. And then there's also trying to be more intentional about the use of flex time and saying if students are demonstrating these skills, do we have, teachers that can, specifically address these areas? But I agree.
Yes, and you mentioned the person at the high school who has an hour. My only concern is if students are choosing whether they go or not, my guess is the students who need it the most are not the ones choosing to go.
Yep.
And so that if there's a way to identify and say, okay, we're going to say they go 1 day a week or something, I just, maybe make it a little more.
Yep. Yep. For her, that service is an intentional one. So that one's a directed, they're getting there. And I would,
Are assigned.
yeah,
Okay.
they are assigned to that
Yes.
as more of an intervention. You have been identified as this is a need. Parents are involved. You are going to do this.
Okay.
And then within the day, but yes, I mean, we're trying to get away from, saying kids like, hey, reach out if you need
Yeah.
help trying to get caught up with all your assignments, because we know they're kids and they might choose to do something else. So yes, that's something that we're trying to get better at.
I also just want to add one other thing. I believe how many teachers at the high school are attending the training this summer? Yeah, so in addition to, when we talk about learning about executive functioning skills and such that we're going to embed in middle school success, we also have a good group from the high school who are also going to that training, that AVID training this summer, so that they can learn some of those same strategies and skills to incorporate throughout. So it is, to your point, we know it's something that we need to continue to work on, and we have quite
It's really, I would say, a big portion of the population that we've got the ones who are targeted, but you've got all these students who missed 3 years of middle school essentially in that traditional sense of when they would have been developed. Thank you. Director Regan.
So back to the earlier slide that you had about the North Holmes clients and staff over time. I mean, to me, that's really compelling for 2 reasons. In my opinion, you can read that 2 different ways. We have so many more students accessing those resources. And is that because we have so many more students who are needing them? Or is it because we've created a culture where it's okay to talk about it? And I think that through our work with the current strategic plan and the present one and the one we're working towards, to me, that is a focus area, knowing that, we hear from our community and we all believe, everyone at this table believes how important the core subjects are in those areas of, core academics. However, knowing that if the child doesn't come to school in a place where they are in a good place to learn, I feel like we're creating a space and an environment that it's okay to talk about these things. And so I'll use it for instance, and that's why I said, Kaya, I appreciate what you say all the time. I listen so much. You talked about in your last report about Mental Health Week and how you said things like, and I'm paraphrasing, so I might get the wording wrong, but you said things like, it was a great week. It was for a place where kids can talk about this. Kids need this. And so I'm hearing that from a high school student where maybe 5 years ago, it wouldn't have been okay to say those things. And so I look at this document or this slide here and I think we are creating a space where it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to say, I feel anxious about this, or it's okay to say I might need extra time. And some of those, students can advocate for themselves. So to me, again, this is another cultural shift that I don't know that I can, as a board member and a parent, value one more than the other. They're both important. And we're creating a space now where our kids can ask questions, our kids can advocate, our parents can ask, and really we're all trying to partner together to create an environment where our kids can learn best. And so I just want to thank you for helping erase the negative feelings and or stigma around mental health, because in 2023, in our world, after we lived through COVID, we have kids who potentially need more, but we also have just a place where it's okay to talk about it. So that's why I don't know what those numbers mean. To me, they're both. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I would add, when I look at that graphic, if we see all the numbers, and if we didn't have this, those numbers are still there. They just don't have anybody providing those supports.
Thank you for the presentation. I so respect the work that you've been able to do on behalf of our kids in this district. But some of the most important work this board does revolves around academic outcomes for students. And so on slide 5, I really appreciate the way you start with the building blocks for learning, because everything that you're doing, all the work that's happening really does lead to increased academic success. And that's why we're here. And so oftentimes that connection is lost when people do the SEL work and the wellness work. It is lost because they get overly focused in this one space. And so that attention front on in the presentation reminds us all of how important this work is and how it needs to continue in our district. And appreciate just the way you always have that at the forefront of your mind, that you are thinking about student success and not just one piece of a student, but the entire whole student. So thank you for leading with that and carrying that through your work that you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, some services, yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Is some of the services are, I think of like the service, I think it's more of a direct piece or an indirect, like there's a making sure that we have like, there's an instructional component, or like with the therapy that's more of a service. Or if a special ed student has, direct needs related to self-regulation or something, that's a service. And then I think of supports, I think that's more of, it's broader. It's like, did we create an environment that allows kids to access these services within our schools? Do we create an environment where we have the supports of, if a child needs like what I was talking about at the middle school with that academic resource center, if they go there because they need a quiet place, or if they have to help get back on track with missing homework or they fall behind, that's a support. We're helping support them. So it is nuanced, but I guess through my lens, I just think of a service. When I talk about that, it's more of an specific, intentional, aimed at that student. And the support is more of a global piece that we allow those kids to access. That's off the top of my head.
No, that's helpful. And I understand. It's a sensitive topic with a lot of people. Should a school district be in the business of providing mental health services? And when we use the word services, in my mind, I associate that with we're in the business of providing mental health services. And frankly, that doesn't really sit well with me, frankly. I completely understand that we need to create environments for kids, like Kelly said, and like you echoed that. They need to be in an environment where they're comfortable, where they're coming to school. And if they're not, we need to be screening and finding out those kids who are not, so that we can get them the help that they need. So I guess what I'm saying is, probably a discussion for another time, but in my mind, I think we need to be sensitive with, are we providing a mental health service, or are we providing a mental health support, so that we can make sure those kids get the support and the help that they do. And if that's coming from trained professionals that we employ, that's one thing. If it's coming from trained professionals that we have partnership with at Northlands. That's another thing. But perhaps, you know, I'll follow up with you and learn more. But in my mind, I'd like to kind of get that distinction. What is it that we are really in the business of doing? If it's in the service sector or support sector around.
If you don't mind, I'd try to follow up with something, but it is probably, you know, it could be part of a larger conversation. But I do want to say that we aren't, like, when it comes to the therapy, that's not our business. That's North Home's business. So what, correct.
We're not providing that service.
We are allowing. Yep, we are allowing access to those services for those children who need that. And again, that is a 100% parent choice. And anytime we have those conversations with parents who say, hey, I'm struggling because my kid's struggling or my child is really struggling, we don't just say, well, North Homes is the only option. We say, this is something that is available in our schools that you can access. So it's really our role as a district is to remove those barriers to families accessing them. And again, that comes back to our original one where that came out of our surveys of this is a need, we're trying to get it, but we can't. And I understand that. And I've been involved with mental health in schools now for about 10 years. And I've definitely seen the evolution. And I think it's one of those things when you look at the urgency or the need to have that, it's hard until all of a sudden it's your child. And once it's your child, you want them to be able to get access to that. And you also want them to be able to play softball or do band or whatever else they do outside of school, and life gets pretty busy. And if the only time that they can do that is, that 25 minutes a day, and North Homes is very intentional about not pulling kids out of academic time. So most of our schools have like a win time and students. So what I need, and some of the students access their mental health, services there. And just one other thing that I also think is when we're in these schools, just to put another lens on it, is all our kids are together. So if it's my child and they're in a class and maybe they have someone who is having trouble regulating themselves, I hope they have access to someone who's going to be able to support them. So although it isn't my child directly, that directly impacts my child's ability to learn.
Frankly, we're probably not going to get into kids that you really need to be focusing on.
That would be my fear. Yep. Yep.
Why I brought up the survey as well. 5 years brings in another whole group of parents that now have kids in school who didn't 5 years ago. And the kids who are in high school now, they took the survey when their kids were little. Is it just ever time to redo some of it?
That could be a discussion that we have as a district team for sure. I will add that I think in terms of, now it's definitely not all our stakeholders, but it is a group. And I find it remember it did surface as a strategy in 2018, 19 in our strategic plan. And if you notice, and I do have it on a slide and I didn't mention it, but that remained a strategy in our draft plan that we just went through. So I think it is the only strategy that carried over. And there was one small tweak to how it appeared versus 2018 versus to where it is now. And that's the inclusion of staff and student wellness. And I think that really speaks to where we're at as a district, and also speaks to, that's real. So that is, It's surfacing again as a need that our stakeholders have identified that this is something we want to pursue and are committed to as a district. All right, thanks, everybody.
So our policy committee met, and the three that are here in front of you are three that are simply coming forward as part of our cycle review. So we have our policies that we review because there have been legislative changes and updates that come through MSBA. And then there are those that we just periodically look at. And so these three are ones that are just standard cycle. There are no updates to it. We did to any of them. We did review them, however, and talked about them as a policy committee. And so we're just bringing them forward to you as part of our standard review process.
Just as a reminder, this is the first reading. There will be 2 more readings. So if there is something, let Barb know and we can talk about it at the next meeting.
I think I had, was there a question? One of our policies is advisory committees involving citizens.
Was a question.
There was a question. He wasn't asking it, but I know he has it. And so I think, I don't know what the full question was, but I knew that you wanted to maybe know which ones we have or.
Yeah, I just, as a reminder, what are the advisory committees that we currently got?
So the ones we have are the Citizens Finance Committee, Community Education Advisory Committee, and these are the ones that to the board. So first these are the ones that are advisory committees to the board. District Curriculum Advisory Committee, Gifted and Talented Advisory Committee, Special Education Advisory Committee, American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. And there are other ways that we include parents or citizen feedback, but these are the ones that are specifically board level.
Correctly, that the curriculum committee, now by law, we have to have 2/3 as community members.
It's phrased in a way that as best if possible or
Okay.
something along those lines, but we actually had pulled Jen in on this from the policy committee and we do have 2/3. Do you mind just coming up to the microphone for those who are watching from home?
Began our meetings this year with District Curriculum Advisory, there was some feedback from the team to say, you know what, we're missing out on some parents. And so I reached out to principals and we added more parents in order to get closer or to meet that recommendation in the statutory language.
And we also have some more students as well
Yes.
that are rotating through.
Yep. I think we have 7 or 8 students on the list this year to be able to come when their schedule allowed it.
Quick question on the curriculum committee before we lose Jen. So am I correct in understanding that the 2/3 community participation is decided upon by the principals of the school, or how do we come up with those participants? And like, can you give me an idea of how many, what does 2/3 mean? Is that 10? Is it 100?
I saw it happen as I made a request to principals if we put it out in their emails and said who's interested, and then we found it next to me and I followed up.
Okay.
So it wasn't
Right. So if somebody wanted to participate, they were included.
yes, until at some point, I think I had 6 or 7 people from one school who wanted to be represented, and I want to have that balance of pre-K through 12. And so I look for, if you have children at 2 or more schools, and I say, no, then I'm going to have them represent the middle school because that's where the fewest parents were involved. To try and keep them on board, but at some point, I can't have every parent who wants to be part of a committee be able to share their voice.
Sure.
If you have any other, thank you, Dr. Reichel. If you have any other questions about any of the policies, just let me know and then we can look into those questions you have and bring them back to the next reading.
action items. Approval of donations and grants totaling $26,168.65. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Director Bellman, sorry, that's for Kate. All donations and grants are greatly appreciated. The use of these funds will be used to further the mission of the school, and they are used towards the wishes of the donor. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And now for school board committee reports. AMSU.
So AMSD last met on May 5th. We had legislators there, including Mary Frances Clarity, who is a former school board member locally, and Ben Bakenberg, who is a middle school principal in Jordan. So it's always nice to have those who have experience with schools come join us and give their perspective on what's happening legislatively at the Capitol. Everything they shared with us, though, has been discussed fully and is most likely in the final bill language. The House summary is out on the bill language because the bill itself is 333 pages. If you haven't read it yet, it is a very good read. The meeting tomorrow will be, and we also got next year's meeting schedule at that meeting. So we have those dates for the entire next year, which is nice. I already mentioned to you the policy conference when that will be. But if you can make it tomorrow morning, that would be great. And I think that's
Director Payne.
Director Payne, could you send the link to that for the virtual? Could you send that? Possibly?
Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right. Not everyone gets that.
I didn't see communication on that. I may have missed it in my email.
only the board rep
Okay.
person who, I'm the board rep for our board to AMSD, and I'm on the executive and legislative committees for AMSD, so I get it.
Right.
And Barb gets it as superintendent. And so we have to forward it on to you.
Thank you. I am very thankful that there's a virtual option tomorrow morning.
Okay, now for your next report. please.
MAIF, really quick update from MAIF. MAIF last met on May 15th. That was a lot of MAIF last met on May 15th. They started out the meeting with their mission moment presentation from the MAPS team, came and presented after they had just been to their that national present. What was that called that they were at, their national presentation? I'm drawing a blank on the name of that. They came and talked about, seriously, like 95% of what they shared from the MAPS team was over my head. They were so intelligent and unbelievable about these presentations. I was sort of in awe. I went and saw this presentation at the high school, and then I saw it again when they presented at the MAIF meeting. And I don't think I had any more clarity because I feel as though they seem like they're PhD students presenting on these topics. That was just unbelievable. So since MAIF had helped fund some of their work and that experience for them, they came and shared with them at the MAIF meeting. Secondly, we already heard about the scholarship night, so I just wanted to say thank you for all of the donations from all of the different organizations and scholarships that exist. So thank you for that. That just took place yesterday. And then really the bulk of their time was spent on MAIF had been meeting for their new organizational goal setting. So they're setting goals as a MAIF board, and there was a discussion about that organizational meeting that they had, or meetings. So it was a pretty brief meeting. And then the last MAIF meeting of the school year here will be more of a quick meeting and a gathering. So as the school year is wrapping up, so are things like the MAIF meeting. So any questions about MAIF? Yeah.
Add on the MAPS team. One of the things that struck me from that presentation is that at least the senior who spoke said he had no intention of going into biology or anything, but he felt like just learning how to do research, how to get through something, how to get through text that you don't understand and you have to read repeatedly. how it is that you can go and present your research in that kind of setting is what he's taking away. So it's not, and I think the other student also talked about the fact that she might not be going into a science related field, which was really surprising to me because I guess I just assumed they all were pursuing a science related field and that just wasn't the case. So, you know, just a little something. that I
Yeah, it was incredible that when they talked about just the time investment that those students put in, not only, you know, during Zephyr time and, what's the high school? Flex time, during flex time and then before and after school and on the weekends, they're meeting virtually to try and pull this together. And then again, the presentation skills, that will be lifelong skills for them to be able to be up in front of a group and present. That is something so incredibly deep and intellectual. Again, I still feel like I might only understand about 5 or 8% of what they shared. It was pretty incredible. And then maybe again, they might not even use it as their field of study, but really it was something that they gained a lot of life skills about. So yeah, it was great.
Well, I want to add something to that too. As you think about those life skills that they've gained from that experience, the students also do the fundraising, right? They do fundraising to attend that conference. MAFE is a huge supporter, but they still have that other piece to it. And so if you need yard work done this summer, I'm sure if you reach out to Mr. Lane, he can connect you to the MAPS team for next year and you can support them as well and have some benefit of nice yard work. I know from experience.
Okay, MSBA legislative update. Well, Superintendent Dufferin covered much of it in her report. I will say they adjourned Monday evening this week, which seems like a long time ago because it's been a long week. And we know about the formula increase, special ed cross subsidy, and the MSBA will be putting together a summary, and they have announced that they will do a webinar on June 1st. They have not announced the time yet that I've seen. So I think given the webinar tomorrow morning and then the June 1st, I think that'll really cover the details of everything that hopefully it's now going to. Oh, is it?
1 o'clock. It's the regular Thursday.
Okay. And next is 916 board report.
Board reports. I did not attend the last 916 meeting. I was on the National Early Literacy tour out in California. So I did have the board notes sent on to you. I did meet with the superintendent to be updated on 916 work. I will say with 916, they have many graduation ceremonies. There's a whole Google sheet for me to sign up on to attend graduation ceremonies pretty much any night of the week that I would like to. So I will do my best to attend places where we have students graduating from our district.
May I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So move.
So moved.
By Director Donna, seconded by
Second.
Director Doman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Do you have clarification on graduation day? Is it Friday or Saturday?
On Saturday.
Oh, it is on Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I thought I saw 10:15 is the students and I think 10:15 is students.
okay, well, I know that you don't go right because there's the assembly. Right. Talk to them about it.
So I agree.
So Lucy, I don't have an email saying the time. When did you get?
In the usual. No, it's a separate email. It's not the usual daily thing. It's received. That's why I got the link. That's why I got the time.
I'm just making sure I don't. I'm not missing emails. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm sure. because I have one that says, but it doesn't say the time. So then I'm like, am I not getting an email? But if you have it, Leslie, you can make sure I have, I'm getting it too.
I'll look
Okay,
for it tonight and
thank
I'll
you.
send it to you tomorrow. Thank you. This is something that Tony needs you to sign.
Okay.
Yes. that's something Amos needs you to do.
Okay.
I will be there. Yes. you go first.
What am I signing?
It's just Barbara.
Oh, okay, gotcha. What is today? The 25th? All right, good night. Good
Thank you,
night.
Kaya.
Hey, thank you all for, I just want to say thank you all for being so welcoming to me.
Yes. Well, you were a great addition.
We'll see you at graduation.
Yes.
Oh, this thing. Yeah, yeah. They won. Barb, did you see they won? I got a notification on my watch. I didn't even look at my phone. I think it was 5-4 unless I looked incorrectly.
Oh my God, we are getting killed. Like,
We lost the game this season by 24 points.
oh my gosh.
Like 7.
I'm worried. I'm afraid to look at this score because I'm just seeing all these texts from my husband. He's like, they pulled my son from pitching because it was out of mercy because he was getting killed. Oh, yeah. 26-4. 26-4 was
Okay,
ours
you have
tonight.
one.
We have one. Now, I will say we 10 run somebody just, was that last night? No, 2 nights ago, 20-8. Yikes, that was bad.
You too, hon. You too. Yeah, so she's interviewing already for that. She's already interviewed a couple people. Yeah, and I. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You sent me something saying, same thing. And then I said,
Oh my God. Okay.
okay, good.
Thank
It's
you.
being filled. It is being filled.
Okay, thank you for everything.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Thank
Have a good
you,
one. Yeah,
too.
it is a bummer. She's so good. She was very, very thankful for people recognizing Shelly. Yeah. I mean, I know the more, and I can't, but I have really.